Hey, what's going on, guys? William Barry here, coming at you with another video. And unfortunately, I have to come at you with a little bit of Eden. Tracy D reached out to me and told me if I don't do this video, she will drop kick me, which is a scary concept because she's so small. She will really hurt. So, from what I remember, this is supposed to be at the end of Money Games 3 and then before Money Ties. So there's a chance Money Ties might win the vote. So I figure I might as well get this Eden video out of the way now while I'm waiting for my groceries to deliver. So we got a little bit of time to kill. And a lot of people in the comments have requested this one as well. So let's give the people what they want. If you build it, they will come. This one is supposed to not be a song, but like a poem or like a written word type thing. Either way, I'm super excited to dive into this. It's nice and meaty, nice and long. I bet she's going to say a lot of stuff that's going to make my brain melt.
Let me tell you a story as old as time, the story of Adam and Eve. It starts with a God who wanted more. God had just created the heavens and the earth. He had the angels by his side, but they had no will of their own. And so the autonomy to love or reject him was never theirs. All but for one, the once called bringer of light, Lucifer, morning star.
Okay.
Lucifer was the fairest and most intelligent of all the angels. He was the closest thing to God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt
I have a question. If Lucifer had no choice but to obey God, then how did he start to doubt him? Like he didn't have that option and yet somehow he did? Was it just because he had so much intelligence and he was so close to God's divinity that he had that capability?
into God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt God was arrogant. In his frustration, Lucifer built a throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again,
They need to make a game about that actual war, bro. Because that would be a sick-ass video game, just saying. So there's a pretty good theme here that in humanity, one of the archetypical tropes of being a child is that we must eventually face our parents. Was it Jung who used to say that, like, the child wants to overcome their parents so they can mate with their mother or something like that? I know that was really extreme shit back in the day, but the idea is that, like, we want to become the head of household, and the way that we do that is through surpassing our father. No different than the angels themselves that are supposed to be these holy creatures. That's cool. Okay. Let's keep it going, Daddy-o. Ooh.
throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power. Perhaps from loneliness, perhaps from curiosity, perhaps from a desire to share love, God began to work on his greatest project yet, a being that would mirror himself, the human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve.
So the idea that we are more powerful than angels because we're more like God. And if Adam and Eve and Lucifer all betray God, does that mean that God is, like, unworthy of the love that he demands of us? Because if he's so great, why is everyone betraying him, right? Like, one guy betraying you might be that dude's just an asshole, but by the third person, hold on, man, we might have an issue here. There might be something worth looking into.
The human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve. They were placed inside a paradise built for them on earth, the Garden of Eden. In the garden, God placed a tree that bared fruit that would grant anyone who ate it powers bestowed only to a God, to tell good from evil, left from right, to live righteously or to sin. He named this the Tree of Knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the Tree of Knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death.
Why would you make a thing like that? I don't understand what the point or the principle of that is. I've never understood it. What, to give them free will is to give them temptation? In order to give them free will, you have to give them something to resist? But like, I don't know, man. It seems redundant and just ridiculous. That's why it's so hard to get behind Christianity. There are good messages within Christianity. Like, there are hundreds of good messages in any religion. Yeah, most of the time they just teach you how to govern yourself in reality. But there's so much dogma and superstition baked into the cake. It's just...
Tree of Knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death. The basic way the story of Eden is told is that Eve was tempted by Lucifer in the form of a serpent to eat a fruit from the Tree of Knowledge. Convinced, she bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same. Suddenly, ultimate knowledge filled their minds, and they realized they were naked and felt shame. God discovered this betrayal and felt angry. He exiled Adam and Eve and cursed them with the life of a mortal. They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deeper.
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
the only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge
may imply some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too.
But the ironicness is that God didn't have the foresight, because by creating the tree, he created the means for rejection. We have a pursuit of knowledge and power that is just intrinsic into us. Our brains are hardwired to learn things. They seek out comfort, but there's comfort in utilizing your brain no different than you do a muscle. This is a cool breakdown of it, because Ren is ultimately saying that because Lucifer and humans were still created from God, there was still a Holy Spirit that resides within them that still can interpret God's will in its own way. And by God, setting up these rules and these barriers to knowledge and thought and perception, that he was actually acting as a bulwark to his own design, mostly out of fear and cowardice. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I love the way that they're both finishing each other's sentences and cutting in like that. That's glorious. As if one is Adam and the other is Eve.
Implies some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too. The fact that there stood a beautiful tree that could
grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to bite too.
Well, that definitely went out the window. They're definitely not Adam and Eve. Now they're just all people. And it sounded like one of them got Neil deGrasse Tyson, bro.
Grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to bite too.
In the Bible, Satan was an exiled angel of free will. Humans are exiled
descendants of Adam and Eve,
also with free will. Not only have we shared a similar fate to the devil, we were also both constructed in the image of our Creator.
Constructed in the image of our Creator.
So because God himself is a flawed entity, that we are also going to be flawed entities, and that we are also just the devil itself, kind of hearkening back to his original Hayam Ren, where the devil was inside him, along with his own superego, ego, whatever you want to call it. There was the righteous angel that could be, and then the enigmatic devil that is. Nice, very nice, very nice. Get some, daddy. Ooh.
We were also both constructed in the
We're
image of
also
our
both
Creator,
constructed in the image of our Creator.
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo His.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts,
But
but as the most
powerful
Being in the universe
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and
Because God cannot pursue knowledge. He is all knowledgeable. His knowledge is capped, essentially. And because we can continually pursue and grow, we are boundless through endless possibilities. I like that. This is the type of shit I could just eat this up all day. Like, nom, 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 nom. Delicious. Give it to me, daddy.
In the image of our Creator.
Meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo His.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts,
But
but as the most
powerful
being in the universe
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
Doubt but himself. An incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer, and us is the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place?
People have long asked, why do we exist and what is our meaning for creation? And outside of religion or God, it's really hard to come up with answers. I've long said that the main thing that I believe is that we are just the universe pursuing itself. You can call it God, you can call it Allah, you can call it Vishnu, you can call it Bijamuntin. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that when you usually look through a religion, and as long as you're using that religion to find a mode of truth, your life will be improved because you have a thirst and pursuit for self and knowledge. And by pursuing knowledge, by pursuing more information, one of the scary things you learn is that you learn less about the way the world works or the universe itself, but that you barely know enough. They used to say all the time that an arrogant person thinks he has all the answers. A stupid person thinks that, they don't need to like further their education or further their self. But a person who is a master at something, they know of all the faults that exist and what pitfalls to avoid. That's it. That's usually all that makes a person an expert, is they understand the breadth of knowledge that they lack on any given topic. Because you can't, like, the human mind just can't know it all. So this is a fucking awesome. This is playing around with some really deep philosophical thoughts. I guess the way that I've always explained it to myself, though, was we are the universe. No matter what religion you are, we are the perception of self. We are the thought of the universe coming to understand itself. From the Big Bang to every molecular atom that we are all part of the same cosmic weave, web, whatever you want to call it. And that tapestry is interlaced with so much internal conflict that I feel like it's just the universe testing the boundaries of its own capabilities. Like, the struggles that you deal with were manufactured and crafted by a thought process. How much shit can you take before you either break or you succeed? And the universe just wants to learn how it would interact with various thousands of objects, which is why sometimes some of these moments have, they overlay with one another. But then again, I am not a psychologist. I am not a philosopher. I am not someone who has done the necessary research to make such extraordinary claims. I understand the concept of a God in the physical sense of a God. And I understand that we have intrinsic oughts that many of us believe across multiple religions. So one could state clearly that because of those things, that there's possibly an identity that might be universal to some extent, even if it's just on a core fundamental human being existence. Some of us call that consciousness. And if you talk to Jung, he'll talk to you, or you read Jung, he'll talk about a group consciousness, which kind of dives deeper into that metaphysical hierarchical structure that points out that we are just kind of in orbit of ourselves. At least that's the way I can sum it up. However, you probably need someone far more intelligent on the topic in order to dive 100% there.
It's the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place? The constantly looping bittersweet irony is whether gifted by some omnipotent God or simply a byproduct of billions of years of evolution, here we stand in 2023 as creatures with free will. The only creatures that understand and define good from bad. Creatures with the potential of a God. And what do we do with that free will, my friends? We willingly walk to the edge of a cliff. In the name of progress, we jump off the precipice. The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct.
Does it though? I mean, your brain is much like a muscle, and it constantly wants to be fed knowledge. But like even other parts of your body, you know, your arms, your muscles, even your stomach, they all have their own drive, their own sense of being. And if a body can do the easiest thing to get the optimal amount of resources, it will continue to do that until you're as bloated as I am. Some of that isn't just us going against biology, because it's within our biology to eat as much as we can, to eat our fill and to grow and expand further. Like, because you can see this even happen with animals. When they have an abundance of food, they'll eat more of it and they'll get fatter and bigger. And they're not going against their biology, and they don't have the same level of free will and same thought that we do. I think that might be part of our biological makeup. Now, I think ultimately the problem is humans, because they want to follow the pursuit of self and intrinsic things to them, that they are a danger to the planet and society around them. It's not really just built up through like a rejection of.
The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat. We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed.
Is it greed, though, to defend yourself? A lot of these weapons of war, we use them in terrible situations. And maybe I'm not going abstract enough here, but if you have a person that's your neighbor that wants to kill you, and you don't have the means to move, well, what do? You probably buy a gun, and you look to defend yourself. I don't know if I fully agree. I'm on board with that one, just to be 100% honest. I don't want to be against it. It's just some of these inventions were made with good intentions. Now, how they are used is an entirely different construct, but I mean, not every gun is evil, and you just have to look at the outcomes of what these things are used for. Now, sometimes they're used by a more powerful entity, but I would say, like the people right now that we're supplying weapons to in Ukraine, I would say that is a good, just, and noble thing. And if these inventions didn't exist, Ukraine would have gone under and Putin would have just claimed more land.
It's our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat. We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians.
I got what you're saying, Ren. It's easy to criticize these things, but what would you offer in their place? You know? We need to do a lot of work on our political structures, and we need to hold people accountable for the things they do. And it shouldn't be okay for a company that kills 1 billion people or like a couple 100,000 people to just get like $1 billion fine. But some of these structures exist for a reason, and they're thought of some of the most brilliant, intelligent people to ever exist. And to throw something away like that for no reason just seems like a little... Like, we have plenty of work to do, but that doesn't mean like the entire thing is systemic. But yes, I would say greed is probably the most evil of the sins, because even gluttony falls under greed. I would say that greed is like a root, like 4 of them. Like even betrayal can probably be rooted. The way I've always summarized is greed is the embodiment of all evil. The pursuit of self is always a dangerous thing.
We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians
and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
Right, but like it is open and free, but as soon as we get rid of those people and then we take over that land or give it back to the people, we will then build up a system of governance, and then we will elect leaders, or our leaders will just take over. Like America was built on that foundation initially. It was through the Federalist Papers that they decided that we needed to build some form of governance, because or else you'll just have warring tribes with everybody. The issue isn't greed, and the issue isn't sin or corporations. The issue is people. And unless you're willing to erase free will, greed will always exist, because someone will always want something for themselves, even if it means someone goes without. And we've seen this across every political system, every economic model. We've seen this across every class system. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, at the end of the day, as long as people exist, we will find a way to fuck it up, because we are selfish individuals that think mostly of ourselves in any given situations, or at the very least, we think primarily of our community, the small little subgroup of people that we allow into our lives. And if you think I'm wrong, just, if you're a leftist and you hate MAGAs, just think about how easy it is for you to demonize them, or on the flip side. Because they're the out group and you're in an in group, and it's easier for you to point the finger and flip them off instead of look to understand them. The problem isn't just the structure. It's the people that reside within the structure. And I don't think the structure alone corrupts those people. I think that people are naturally greedy, because even back in the day when it was just warrior tribes of Native Americans, they were not a peaceful people. They would kill one another in great bloody wars. The ancient Han dynasty of China was no different than the Sengoku era of Japan. War has been a constant for the last 2,000 to 3,000 years, or as long as we've been able to record such things. Long before capitalism and long before greed was ever properly established as one of the root causes for a majority of evil.
Insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians
and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation.
Okay, but like, how are we defining corrupted? Are we defining corruption in just the guise that someone didn't do what you wanted? Like I said, in my last Money Games or Money Games 2, where that video only lost me subscribers. I muse that some politicians, a big chunk of them, come into the industry to make positive change. Though they might run on multiple issues, they're only there to really fix one or two. But they have to tell you a wide scope of things they want to do, because it's ultimately what gets them elected. I don't like the idea of saying that politicians are corrupt. There are plenty of politicians that don't take PAC money. There are plenty of politicians that have great voting records and track records, and who have done an honest work. You know, some of them come in, do what they want to do, and then some of them get out. Does that mean that they're overpaid, underworked, and, you know, have way too much control? Of course. And we need more transparency in the systems that we have. We should definitely have that. We should be able to track any and all money that goes to a politician. We should be able to see any backroom deals. And we should have an easier way to recall and revote politicians that are doing things that we disagree with as within our constituency. But I don't like that kind of thinking. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying he thinks that wholly. It's just, you know, it's just a line in a song or a spoken word, but
Dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and television sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics.
yeah, but some of that isn't just propaganda, right? Some of that is intrinsic to human nature. Like, again, warrior tribes that used to roam these lands, what would have been roaming hills and plains, found reasons to kill one another without those things. It could be religion, it could be you want that patch of land, you want those resources, it could be a myriad of different things. It's never just these things bad, so all things bad. It's just, I disagree with that. But yes, we do suffer under a massive weight of dualism within our country, where we try to paint the other person across the aisle as lesser than. But then we also have a group of people that are not adhering to their own principles. They're playing by a different set of rules, and they're literally changing their belief systems on a dime when they tell you that they're a constitutionalist, but then aren't willing to adhere to the Constitution when it disagrees with them. Being mad at someone that's showing a lack of understanding or a lack of or who's being hypocritical, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we should do. Now maybe we need to find ways to like bridge that better, but I don't know.
Domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and television sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War, famine, pestilence, greed, these aren't things imposed upon us by an all-powerful God or by his demonic adversary. They are here because of us,
yes.
Not because of free will, but because of our inability to use it. We must be motivated to be better, not out of fear of punishment of an eternal damnation,
yes,
but because the choice exists,
yes,
because we love ourselves. because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering.
Yes.
Take a second to be in this very moment.
I'm gonna take a second, Daddy. I want to cuddle you right now, Ren. You brought me back. You saved me. You saved me. Oh, just wanna cuddle you right now, Ren. Yes. He's spitting bars. It's not about God. It's not about demons. It's not about the systems. It's about us. It's about us sucking. Like, we could be better. We deserve to be better. We have moral oughts. We should work for a better world. Whew. Ooh. Read my mind, Daddy. Read my mind. Ooh.
Because we love ourselves. Because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment. In this moment, how much suffering is happening all over the planet right now?
Too much.
How many people are dying of illnesses that could have easily been cured, but aren't because of the selfishness and greediness of humanity? How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary?
Goddamn. I say it a lot, that you can't get too mad at the people that are trying to numb their pain, who log in and listen to, a song about lollipops and butt sex. Brought it back from the very first episode. It's so hard to look past your own suffering when you're in the middle of a fucking storm, It's really hard to want to help and lift up other people when no one's there to help and lift you up. It takes a level of courage and dedication that is just rare. It takes understanding. It takes empathy. More importantly, it takes someone willing to lose much more than they're going to gain from that action. It's the antithesis of greed. But when people are stuck in their situation, as much as you want to tell them, hey man, the world would be a better place if you would give a shit. And they say, why? No one's ever given a fuck about me. It's hard to make someone in that situation see the good in the world. Because sometimes there isn't. All you can do is hope that, they see it, and you do everything you can to help lift them. It's a fucked up cycle. There are no winners.
And reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food. How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary? How many children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of us become cogs inside a machine that is destroying itself? How many soldiers have been forced to fight in meaningless wars? How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man?
Way too many, brother. Way too many. But sometimes they believe in those things. History is rife with soldiers and warriors that fought for a cause that's worth dying for, that's worth killing for. They're not useless wars, not all of them. Sometimes they're for greed, like going for Iraqi oil. Yeah, we didn't need to do that shit. But right now, Ukraine is fighting in self-defense. And I'm pretty sure if you ask a Ukrainian if they're willing to die to give themselves some statehood and sovereignty as a country, a lot of them would probably say yes. Because we get to sit from a position of privilege and say, well, we just want them to stop dying. We care about lives. And that's all good and well to say, but they don't have a state to speak of. They're under constant attack. that war for them is worth fighting. In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Liu Bei wanted to free peasants from tyranny because the Han Dynasty was failing. That was something worth fighting for. Certain sects of the Sengoku era of Japan, Mitsuhide Akechi wanted to end Nobunaga Oda's reign when he was about to become daimyo. That was worth fighting for. When Nazi Germany tried to take over the world, along with Japan, the imperialist army of Japan, stopping them was worth fighting for. They believed in a cause, and we believed in justice. Now, maybe we had a bunch of petty squabbling along the way that put us in terrible situations, but our inaction led to numerous Jews being nearly eradicated. Things are more important than life, and some of those values are worth fighting for. Now, he didn't say all wars were useless, but he asked a good question. A lot of wars that we see, it's hard to see the reason behind them. I'm not telling you every war is good. I'm not going to say that. And I'm not saying the wanton suffering that war causes is good or justified. Just look at Israel. As much as I defend Israel's right to defend its border against terrorist attacks, eventually you hit a threshold where the damage is too high. And you're like, hey man, maybe we should simmer down a little. That's a very complicated question that you can get lost in for hours. But too many people pay the cost for greedy men whose own soldiers or own sons or own people or themselves will never see a battlefield. It's not like the way it used to be when warriors were the ones that led nations, and they did so through merit and effort. Because at least you know they were there fighting alongside you. Jesus.
Fighting meaningless wars. How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man? And how much of this was avoidable? As written in the Bible, Satan was not condemned to hell. Satan was condemned to earth. He lives there amongst other creatures with free will, who always had the choice and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell. The bittersweet irony is this is a creation of our own design. I'll leave you with this. Consider what you have done here today. You have worked together as individuals collaborating to form a giant neural network, a hive mind capable of achieving incredible things. We have lent on each other's strengths to solve puzzles and decipher riddles, and we've done so to win money. Imagine applying that same spirit and determination to creating the closest thing we have to paradise here on Earth. By using the power of collaboration, we can work together to even the playing field for everybody. Our dystopias can become utopias. Our Jahannams can become Jannah. Our hells can become heaven, right here on Earth. And this sentiment applies to atheists, agnostics, and believers alike. Myself, I'm an agnostic who believes. I believe in us. We must do better because we can choose to. We must be better simply because the option exists. Thank you.
Nah, Daddy-o, thank you. That was a beautiful message, and one that anyone should be able to get behind. Wholeheartedly, full-throatedly.
Do
Fuck
this to raise your
yes.
credit score fast.
No,
Have you seen this guy
man, we're
before?
trying to
The
be
guy
all
that says,
deep and
"Paying your bills
reflective.
on
What are you
time raises your
doing?
credit score, right?"
What are you doing right now? Come on, homie. We trying to be in our fields right now. So that was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. Like I said, I agree with like 99% of what he says. I just always want to have that little caveat out there, you know what I mean? Like that just little, hey man, maybe not all, you know? Not to say that he's saying all, but I need that caveat because I like to believe in the duality of people. That people are the makers of the greatest things we have and also the bringers of total destruction. And I just believe that to my core. And not many people are going to be able to persuade me on that. I've seen some of the best men do some of the worst things, and some of the worst men do good things. And as long as I can believe in that, I think that anyone is really worth salvaging, and that people are worth fighting for. Because there's always some sliver of hope of a decent being somewhere locked away in that cage they call their body. I'm glad I watched this, especially before we potentially get into money ties. Ren has a unique perspective on stuff. Something that I think is interesting is that we do create our own hell. So many of our actions are caused by our own hands. Not to say that trauma is entirely your fault, by no means. And not to say that you can't be a victim. Bad things can happen to you that you don't have control over. But it's what you do with those traumas or with that damage is still your choice. The idea of having the devil still here on earth, I don't think we need the devil. I think that we are capable of no more malice than he is. That we are, each one of us, represent that same beast, the id that exists and beats in all of our chests. It's a bit strange now that I think about it. Because when you think about the devil being stuck with us, you can almost use him as a scapegoat for why you do the things you do. And that feels wrong as well. But something I've always believed is that people are in less control over their life than other people, than you take granted for. Like let's say if you get really hungry, you're going to be short, you're going to be like argumentative, you're going to be easier to anger. That's not something you choose. That's something that's forced upon you by just random action. That's just, you're being influenced by, your id, your subconscious, whatever it might be. I think there's something to be said about we don't have the control that we think we do. We are merely piloting a device that we like to call ourself through a string of endless events that happen. I heard at one point someone said that we aren't even the same person we are every day we wake up. It's why we can wake up in so many different moods. I don't know how much I take stock in that, but the idea is that the devil itself, if he was real, I bet you he would be scared of us. Because we're the only people on earth that can do something completely evil and dreadful and then say we did it with good intentions. We slaughtered the Jews to, make Germany great again. In America, we deport immigrants despite the fact that there are 5 different cases that represent that all people within our country are subjected to the same rights as anyone else. Well, their sovereignty at least. But we say it's for the greater good of our country, so we deport people without reason, without humanity. Fuck. There's a lot to think about. And my groceries just got here about 10 minutes ago, so I guess I should go pull those in, get them stacked away, and then head back to bed. And this one was because Tracy threatened me bodily harm, so we must obliged. Obliged? We must oblige. There we go. Look, see, I know a big word every once in a while. Ren, as always, you blow me away. And to all of you renegades, you guys are outstanding. Thank you. Damn, we back. We did a 44-minute one. What's up, bro?